The biggest thing holding so many of us back from starting a business, starting a YouTube channel, working out, doing anything for the first time really, and not feeling like scared or nervous, it's that fear of failure that comes through. It comes in hot and it's like, what are people going to think of me? Everything needs to be perfect. How can I start unless I know what I'm doing? And that is a really common feeling. A lot of people feel this way. You're not alone. I've talked to many people and it's hard to get past that, but knowing that it's normal, knowing that a lot of us experience it, makes it a little easier, in my honest opinion, to just keep going and getting started anyway. Because nothing is ever going to be perfectly aligned. Nothing is ever going to be ready to go. You just do it anyway, right? You just get started. And I'm going to go over exactly how to get started, how to keep going, all the things that come up, because I actually did this. I really am living proof that it's possible to just get started and then figure it out as you go and make something really amazing happen. I've been in business for 8 years now, and I've been a true entrepreneur for 6 years. And I have a lot to get into this video, so we're going to take a deep dive into that. But let's start with why you should do it. Okay, so for each example I gave, like starting a YouTube channel, starting a business, or even just working out, right? Each one of those has a desired future self in mind. Maybe the working out, you want that desired future body, that you've got abs or you've got a nice butt, you've got toned arms and legs. That's a whole desired future self of yours. Or let's say you want to start your own business, but you're nervous because you don't know if it's going to work out or not. But the future self of you can see it, right? And you see that that person is making money and they are in control of their lives. They don't have to hustle and grind the 9 to 5. They have freedom and choice to do anything they want with their schedule. They could go to a coffee shop on a Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. instead of rushing to work in a shitty traffic commute. Not about it. I really am all about working for yourself. So stay with me here. I hope I can convince you to do the same. But starting a YouTube channel too, that's a whole another form of business, really. You're working for yourself if you can actually get that off the ground. And you could do like sponsored ads, work with people. There's so many different ways, networking, the list goes on. YouTube is a really cool thing too, especially if it's something that you've been kind of thinking about. I believe anyone can do it. All you have to do is just get started. And once you figure out which thing you want to do first, because I'm not about doing all of the things, okay? Like, let me tell you, please do one thing at a time. I'm a strong believer in essentialism. So let's say you want to start a YouTube channel and a business. Do the YouTube channel first. See if it feels right for you. See what happens and learn as you go. I truly believe this is going to help you live a more fulfilling life this way, because a lot of people just kind of go day by day, not knowing what the hell they're doing, but just doing it anyway. A lot of us are winging it, right? But if you have something that you're passionate about, you're going to be living a more fulfilling life this way, and it gives you more of a reason to get out of bed instead of sleeping in and kind of having those like crappy days where you just don't really care about life, right? I personally believe that this is something that helps you stay motivated and keep going and wanting to live. And once you get started, you'll figure out more about yourself along the way. You'll figure out what you like, what you don't like, what works, what doesn't work, and just more about yourself, honestly. You're going to be able to unmask yourself, essentially. When I first started YouTube, years ago, my channel is actually pretty old. I've done many different ventures with YouTube, but I really just love talking to the camera, and I love getting to connect with people, and I love learning more about myself as I grow older. I'm 31 and I started YouTube back when I was like 24, I think. And I originally started it with my business, which I'm still working on. I have a lot of different interests, so I just like to see what works for me and see what I like. And I've taken many different routes with this channel, right? I started it with my business, and then I was like, well, what if I actually just did my own thing? And I said, I'm going to be myself here and just get rid of like the whole business part of it. And I liked that, but I didn't really get a good audience. So I was like, okay, well, let me try again, like just myself, because I still had parts of the business. I was making soap. I had a whole soap making channel here, and I liked it, but I just couldn't get anybody to vibe with me. So that's the thing. Find what you like, but also find things that people can connect with you on, so you can find people that are on the same vibe as you. You're going to attract the people that are meant to be in your life, and you're going to repel the ones that aren't. So how do you do it? How do you get started but not know how to get started? How do you get rid of the whole perfectionism thing, the fear of being judged and perceived by others, like friends and family, right? You just do it anyway. You just let it roll. Anything that comes up, just don't take it personally, honestly. There's so many people out there that just are living their own lives, and we're just side characters, basically. They're the main character and we're a side character. So it's a moment in time, really. You just let it roll. If something weird comes up or something that you just don't really feel good that the person said it, like, why are you doing that? Like, what's the goal here? What's the purpose of this thing that you did or the thing that you're doing? Just don't take it personally. They're just curious, really. I think that's what it really comes down to, too. It's not that they even really care what you're doing. They're just curious and like kind of nosy in the moment. But then once they leave you, it's like they forgot they even asked that question. So don't take anything to heart is what I'm trying to say. And you learn as you go. Everyone starts out as a newbie. I think that doesn't get said nearly enough. You are not aware of what works and what doesn't work when you first start out with something. It's very awkward. It's very weird. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. It kind of feels uncomfortable. And then you get better at it and it becomes more enjoyable and more comfortable as you continue to do it. And it gets so much easier. And it's a whole learning process. Like whenever you think back to something you learned for the first time, right? You were a newbie. Like maybe it was an instrument. You didn't know what the heck the notes were, what strings to play, what keys to hit, whatever instrument that you choose, right? You just learned as you went. You learned all the little basics in the beginning, and then you got better, is what I'm trying to say. Don't expect yourself to be this like expert when you first get started with something, and be easy on yourself. Like treat yourself like you would your best friend is something I always like to say. And it's something I even struggle with sometimes because it's not easy. That negative self-talk comes in so hard sometimes, and you just have to tell yourself like, stop, don't say these things to yourself. All that's doing is hurting you. Do the best you can for yourself and keep going. And I want to talk about how I started my business, actually. I have this bath and body business, and the whole way that it even started was me hanging out with my best friend. We were smoking weed and we were just kind of being a little silly. And there were certain people on Instagram that were kind of popping off at the time. This was 2016. And I told her, like, what if we started a business? Like, this kind of seems cool. Like, maybe we should give it a try. And I had this magazine that my mom gave me, and it was like all these DIY bath bombs and stuff. So we just had fun, and we made bath bombs, and we made body butter. And a couple weeks later, we finally just started the Etsy shop, and we just winged it. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I didn't know back then that it would form into this whole thing where I made hundreds of thousands of dollars. I got a team of girls. I have a warehouse. Like, you just don't know until you start and you keep going. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people will start and then give up because they don't see results really fast. You have to wait for the results to happen. You can't just expect things to fall into your lap and things to be instant gratification, because that's what we're kind of used to with social media. We constantly get notifications, messages, and likes and comments on things, right? But sometimes it doesn't always work out like that right away. And you have to be patient and trust the process. And you also need to break down what's most important and focus on the things that are going to move the needle. Like, think of like a sewing machine, right? And you're pushing fabric through it. You have to think like, well, what's going to push it through? What's the biggest thing that I can do that is actually going to move me forward and get me the results that I want? And really focus in on that. Don't put too much on your plate. Just focus on what's the most important thing and tackle that first, and then move on to the next thing. And always start small. If you overwhelm yourself with something that's like way too big, that's when you're just gonna like back out and be like, this is too much. This is too overwhelming. I can't handle all this. Like I said, I started out with like this DIY recipe from a magazine, and I just tested it out first. And I saw, hey, is this something I want to do, right? If you're interested in doing YouTube, record yourself, right? Just don't even post it. Just take your phone and record yourself and see if you like talking. See if that's something that's like exciting to you and makes you more curious and makes you feel good, right? Don't just post a YouTube video and say like, oh, like it did horribly. I got no views and I can't believe I made a fool out of myself. Practice first, try things out first, record yourself first, and see if it feels good or not. And then keep going. I'm not saying just post a video. I'm not saying like, make sure your banner looks perfect. Make sure that your profile picture is immaculate and it was taken by a photographer. Like, I'm not saying any of that. A lot of people will do things like that. They'll overcomplicate and analysis paralysis their way out of anything. And I think that's a big part of the reason people won't just get started. And once you start, right, Well, how do you keep going? Like, what helps you to keep going when things aren't really going as well as you want them to? But like I said, patience and persistence, keep going anyway, because those results aren't going to come super instantly. They just don't. So how do you keep going? How do you stay motivated? You look at the people that have the thing that you want and they're successful with it. They've achieved it. They are living the life that you want to live. Look at them and be inspired by them and try to visualize what they have, but for yourself. And that's exactly what I did when I started my business. I looked at my competitors and I've actually surpassed them. That's the crazy thing. You just never know. And I don't want to get your hopes up and say like, that's what's going to happen, right? Maybe it will, right? It's a maybe. I think that's the cool thing about life. You just never know. It's a possibility. If you keep trying and you put in the work and you stay consistent, it very well could happen, because it did happen for me. I'm just saying that you need to make sure that you're looking at these people though. Because if you don't know who the hell you're trying to be like, who has the thing that you want, how could you ever expect yourself to get there? You're imagining this thing that doesn't exist maybe. If it's too far out there and no one's ever done it, the chances of you doing it, kind of slim, right? So look at people that have what you have and that are currently doing what you want your future self to do. Another way to keep going is this thing I like to call no zero days. So every day that goes by, make sure you're doing something. At least something small is better than nothing at all. I always swear by this, because if you don't do something for, let's say, 2-3 days, you're gonna fall off and you're gonna be like, how do I get back on the wagon, basically, right? You're gonna have a harder time getting back on. And a lot of people will give up when they fall off. So I just say no 0 days, just do something small, because that's better than nothing at all. I know this may seem like hustle culture, right? But I'm really just trying to say, like, just do something. Do research, right? You could do something so small. It's just the effort and the energy that's getting put into the thing that you want to do. That's all I'm trying to say. Something small is better than nothing at all. And next, I want to go over overcoming the fear of failure. And that is by adapting a beginner's mindset. And this is something I learned recently, actually. It's from this book called The Imagination Muscle, which is what I'm currently reading. And he says basically, it's like you think about when you're a little kid, right? And everything's new, everything's exciting, and you're curious and you're filled with joy because you're seeing things for the first time. That's the mindset that you want when you're going into this. You don't want to be thinking about all the negatives. You want to really harness in on the good energy and focus on the positives. What if it all goes right? What if this happens? What if that happens? Like, get excited about it, be curious about it, and feel joy. But I also want you to understand this. Failing is always perceived as a bad thing because that's what we're taught in school. Like when you get an F, you're like, oh my God, how am I gonna face my parents when I get home? I got all these Fs on my tests and right? Failing is actually a good thing, especially in business. The more you fail, the more you figure out what your customers want, what you're supposed to be doing, what actually works, what is good for the company, right? Fail fast and figure things out faster that way. See what works and see what doesn't work. And the only way to do that is by failing. Even Thomas Edison talks about this all the time. And he has a bunch of quotes. I don't know one off the top of my head right now, but please believe me on this. He's one to know about failing because he talks about it in the Imagination Muscle book. And I forget exactly what he said, but I do know that he really did believe in failing on like inventions. And that's how you find an invention that works, something that actually works, right? You gotta make the mistakes. You gotta get down and dirty with it and figure out what works. Because the faster you fail, the faster you find out what works. And listen, if you're like, well, okay, I want to do this, but I don't have somebody in my life right now that's going to help push me. And I don't know if I can really do this all on my own. And statistically, like 80% of people can't do something without an accountability partner. So if you want me to help you, we can work together. Scroll down right now, click on the top link in the description, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.